Good afternoon and welcome to the Federal Executive Forum celebrating 17 years of profiling excellence in government IT mission programs. I'm Luke McCormick. During today's show, we will discuss best practices with data center and cloud optimization strategies in the federal government. With me on today's show are Beth Capello, Deputy Chief Information Officer, the Department of Homeland Security, DeVarious Peoples, Chief Information Officer, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Thomas Santucci, Director, Data Center and Cloud Optimization Initiative, PMO at GSA. Rob Carey, President, Cloudera Government Solutions. Chris Roberts, Federal Technology Director, Quest Software Public Sector. And Nicholas Spees, Chief Federal Technologist at Snowflake. Well, Vivek Kundra issued a 25-point plan that was, 12 years ago. In there cited cloud first. 10 years later, we had cloud smart. Now we're on a tear. I'm going to start with you, Beth, and talk about being on a tear. It doesn't go unnoticed that every single agency you go to, you go in there and you clobber data center optimization and move everything to the cloud. So give us a state of where you're at there with the data center initiative and the cloud optimization at Department of Homeland Security.
Wow, thanks for that introduction, Luke. It's interesting. When I was getting prepared for this, I was reflecting on, the work that we did at Immigration and Customs Enforcement 3 or 4 years ago, prior to my coming up to the department, which really was a great training ground, if you will, for this most recent effort that we've completed, which is closing out Data Center 2. And I think for anybody who's closed a data center, particularly in the federal government, it's not a trivial task. And I'm pretty proud of the team, because if you consider that they completed this effort, I put a line in the sand 2 years ago. And I said, 2.5 years ago, I said to the components when I first got up to the department that we were going to complete this effort, that we were not going to extend the contract, we were going to get it done. Of course, I didn't have a crystal ball. I didn't know we were about to run headlong into a couple of very serious events: COVID, solar winds, a couple of natural disasters, and some world events along the way. So to say that I'm proud of this team for being able to complete the transition is an absolute understatement. But to just sort of sum up, we closed out a data center, and I can get into the details of what that looks like when we talk about, best practices. Some of the work, though, and the preparation for that started probably 5 years ago, 12 years ago, really, if we talk about Vivek's memo, which is frightening to think that it was 12 years ago. But some of the work initially started with optimizing our Data Center 1, and then quickly transitioned for me into closing out Data Center 2. But again, pretty proud of the team. They did it through an administration change, a couple of CIO changes, some big major world events, COVID. I don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could throw anything at this team and we'd be successful.
Absolutely. Data Center 1, 2, just so the listening audience understand what that means and what that is.
Sorry, I should have set some context. I just assume everybody knows DHS, knows what our big data centers are. Hey, we're DHS. We narrowed it down after DHS was created. There's more than Data Center 1 and Data Center 2, but those were our two primary on-premise data centers. And Data Center 1 down in Stennis, Mississippi, been operating down there for 17, 18 years now, and likely will remain in that on-premise data center for the foreseeable future. Although we have optimized, we've closed some of the zones in that data center and moved workloads to the cloud. Much of that work was work that I did while I was at Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and we'll continue that effort. We'll continue to optimize Data Center 1. Data Center 2 was a second data center here on the East Coast, and that had been operating for less time than Data Center 1. But again, there was an imperative from a lot of perspectives: cost, efficiency, effectiveness, capacity, performance. I mean, we could get down the litany of reasons why you go to the cloud, but particularly data center 2. It just made sense for us to try to winnow it down in DHS to the least number of brick and mortar data centers. We get scored on that. So it was kind of important from a scoring mechanism. But again, most importantly, from an efficiency, effectiveness, and resilience for our enterprise environment.
Sure. And, what gets measured gets done, no doubt about that. And obviously the introduction of all this cloud capability certainly plays into those decision factors, no doubt. Talk to us about U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Give us a top line state of the state. I know you've been doing a lot of activity over there.
Yeah, no, so good morning. So thanks for the opportunity just to share a little bit about what we're doing at the Army Corps of Engineers to support the nation. So just a little context from the Corps of Engineers. We began our data center journey, of course, when the OMB mandate came out, and of course, we're an Army organization as well. So we've been working aggressively to identify what is the best method to begin not just data center closures, but our cloud modernization optimization journey. So within the Corps, just think about it as when COVID-19, when the remote work directive came out, everyone started working remote. And maybe about 3 days within that remote order, within the time frame that a remote order came out, we received a fiber cut, and our 2 primary data centers are within Vicksburg, Mississippi, and Portland, Oregon. And in the southern region, there's a lot of construction that goes on. Also, when you think about flooding, there's saturation, there's high flood zones. All of those things never benefited well from a data center perspective. And we were down without comms for about 12 hours, which was pretty significant from the Corps of Engineers perspective. So over the course of the past 18 months, roughly, we have begun to start our modernization migration journey. And we have begun to standardize on 2 central locations for our data centers now, which is Ashburn, Virginia, as well as San Jose, California. And we're looking at a triple active architecture concept, which the 3rd node will be in Dallas, Texas. That gives us a central location. It also gives us primary connections as well throughout wherever you're at, CONUS or OCONUS, and allows for optimization and connectivity. So we are in a hybrid concept, private and public cloud access. So we've been working closely with a lot of our public partners, whether that's Microsoft, Oracle, AWS, and so many others, as well as we've been building around the Equinix facility concept to ensure that the private concept is actually built out as well. So we've started aggressively. We also have these unique things called tech closets. That also brings another layer of complexity to our data center modernization and optimization journey. Over the course of the past 18 months, we've closed 30 specific tech closets, as well as data centers within the Corps of Engineers, and we still have about 18 more to go. The tech closets has shown to be a little bit more challenging due to the fact that they support more of your local technology, not necessarily with your standard data center, but those tech closets have small servers and those things that support the mission. So we're struggling to identify, do we keep those, do we close them, or how do we optimize? So that's the next level of challenges that we're beginning to address in conjunction with our data center modernization journey. So interested to have a good conversation, and thanks for the opportunity.
Tavares, I'm going to have to give you the Luke McCormack trophy for coming up with a tagline of the tech closet, i.e. the server underneath your desk, the server in the closet, et cetera, et cetera. And we know there's just hundreds and thousands of those out there. So good on you for getting into those and pulling those into your inventory, et cetera, and cleaning them up. Tom, you are sitting in the catbird seat there. You're seeing this across all of the various agencies. Give us a perspective of the state of what are you seeing out there now that we've sort of come out of out of data center, sort of data center first, data center smart, cloud optimization, et cetera, really into sort of a higher order level of activity going on here.
Yeah, Luke, I can't thank you enough for having these 2 agencies represent cloud optimization and data center optimization. The fact that Tavares even recognizes the tech closets is a real big push, and they're making strategic decisions of what to do with those. Beth, I've hired some of your best talent from DC2 that you put out of business, thank goodness. And they were terrific employees and contractor support. And I applaud DHS on what they've been able to accomplish with their cloud migrations and closing that data center. So I'm the director of Data Center and Cloud Optimization Initiative, PMO, which is the Office of Government-Wide Policy within GSA. And one of our main responsibilities is serving as OMB's managing partner for Data Center Optimization Initiative, as well as some other initiatives. Now, we recently had major success when 24 of the CFO Act agencies received an A in DCOI in the latest VATAR scorecard. This is a huge accomplishment. So 10 years in coming that we've been able to achieve. And now it's time to really take a hard look at what we've actually been able to accomplish. We also want to celebrate the energy, environment, and infrastructure benefits that result from transitioning from government-owned data centers to commercially owned data centers, cloud computing, and software as a service. We think there's environmental benefits moving to any one of these environments that have sustainable plans.
Yeah, you don't really think a lot of times about all the energy savings associated to something like this, and great repurpose of the talent and the technology. So happy to hear that, Rob. In order to do this, you have to have good partners. You got to have good technology to make these things happen. Cloudera is right in smack in the middle of that. What are you seeing out there? What's the state of the state from where you sit?
Luke, good morning. It's interesting. I'm listening to Beth, listening to Various, and the movement from cloud first, because I was a CIO then, as you were, and to now cloud smart. And so we went from pushback to embracing this entire concept, right? We went from having no chief data officers to a whole slew of them in the government, right? So we actually have a momentum in the federal space that allows the government agencies to sort of realize, okay, cloud isn't the end state, right? It is mission enhancements, the end state. So we actually get the fact that cloud can deliver on those promises that it was originally intended to, but we didn't have security right. Now we have FedRAMP. So we're overcoming each hurdle that is presented by the technology opportunity. And now we're starting to thrive on cloud. So to me, I'm watching agencies sort of, some still dipping their toe in the water. Remember the programs, and I know Beth and Devarius know this, the programs are that there's haves and have-nots. The haves have already moved into cloud. The have-nots are trying to get there, right? And they will. If it's necessary for them, because there's some that we're probably never going to move into cloud computing, but we may move to them to an on-prem cloud basis, lots of things like that. So there's now an array of cloud technologies that the agencies can take advantage of that, again, I'll say 3, 4, 5 years ago did not exist. The fact that we understand that COVID, as everybody's talked about, has been this tremendous incentive to enable the workforce to work from anywhere. We talked about that, 15, 16 years ago back in Navy, about we don't care where the workforce is. It's a nomadic workforce. Let them log in, with identity credentials, blah, blah, blah. Well, now that's a requirement. It's not like, hey, I want to do it. It's a requirement. What is key to that is access to data, right? And that the cloud gives us that ubiquitous access to data, given the right set of identity credentials and the right sets of security. So what I'm seeing is this movement into a space where we understand the technology that give us the mission outcomes. We just need to now continue that journey that we're on. This is, that journey that we're 12 years into it, but the government's a big place. So at the end of the day, this is delivering mission outcomes for all the agencies that embarked on it.
No doubt that you think about things like continuity of service, right? Continuity of government. This is where I think this sort of remote type of environment really has paid off in a lot of cases. Chris, how about over at Quest Software? Give us 15 seconds on what Quest Software is, and then how do you snap into and enable all this capability to happen?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Luke, for having us once again. Quest, we focus really on the mission as it is defined by our federal partners. So you realize that we're both a commercial as well as a federal entity, and sort of I'm the tail wagging the dog, so to speak. So shout out to GSA and NIST and OMB. Makes my job a little easier when I have to explain why we have to invest and do certain things. That being said, we specialize in making the mission simpler, for instance. So whether you're trying to manage not just cloud smart and dealing with a hybrid environment of where data is going to reside, you're extending perimeter from a security standpoint, handling zero trust from that perspective, but it is also dealing with the other issues that go along with that. So when that memo came out 12 years ago, sure, you had Amazon leading the pack, you had Microsoft coming up fast and Google, but quite frankly, that was just the infrastructure. There were so many other things. Think about the platform services we need, applications to be integrated, for instance, all the tools that we became used to and comfortable with, all of a sudden were challenged with working in a hybrid environment. So helping end users, helping our customers, even simple things like, as Devarius pointed out, the tech closet, which I call shadow IT, we all did at the time, but also now points to a more realistic view of that is called, edge computing as we approach 5G. And that is, some things will have to be in the cloud, but where exactly is that cloud? So we talk about the cloud can be anywhere. Well, edge computing speaks to the fact that I can put devices or data centers or mini data centers, quite frankly, where I need to support the mission. So think of a forward command in the Army, think of the offshore capabilities of a carrier, for instance. So there's so many different uses and applications. And when the memo came out, we just were beginning to scratch the surface of that. So at Quest, we figured out that we just need to help our government partners, quite frankly, and clients figure out exactly, one, how do I manage? How do I monitor? How do I maintain, consolidate? How do I manage this entire infrastructure from end to end? And so that's where our portfolio has developed over the years, and that is focusing on those both individual workloads as well as the broader mission, for instance. So something as large and broad as zero trust, all the way down to, for instance, figuring out what metadata is inside of a Cloudera database, for instance, and how do we actually secure that, and how do we sanitize PI information? So that's a broad mission of what we do, but shout out to all our government customers who actually help us do that very well. Thank you.
Yeah, very good top line. And obviously that hybrid of stitching, it's not here or there, it's both, right? And being able to sort of pull all that together. Nicholas, how about at Snowflake? You obviously are right smack in the middle of this journey, and it is all about the data at the end of the day, and being able to properly process it, analyze it, and use it to make great decisions.
Yeah, thanks, Luke, and thanks again for having me. Hello, everyone. I feel like I live in a tech closet. Looking at the cloud and how we embrace it over the last couple of years, going back to some of the stuff that Rob was talking about security, talking a little bit about what Chris was talking about on the technology side, and sort of how Beth was going through her journey at a couple of different agencies. This stuff didn't happen overnight. 10 years ago, I was a cloud skeptic too. I didn't think we would ever get to a point where it made sense to use somebody else's computer, right? That was the joke. But really, the technology and the security and the governance had to catch up to what we wanted the cloud to be. And it's taken this long. But I think a lot of the technologies that enable folks like the Department of Homeland Security and the Army Corps of Engineers, and to enable the initiatives that GSA puts out there, it really comes down to, we've put policy in place, we've put tools in place, we've built really great, robust platforms and technologies that not just make going to the cloud, we check the box, you actually gain mission function. It's easier to do what your charter says you should do. Data collaboration is something that we talk a lot about at Snowflake. That was really difficult in legacy on-prem data centers, but it's exponentially easier with the technology that exists in the cloud. And that enhances everyone's execution. So things like data collaboration and digital loss prevention and security and governance in general are in a great place because of the cloud technologies. And those cloud technologies, offerings like software as a service, big commercial sort of white glove technologies, make it easier and beneficial to go to the cloud. So now it makes sense. And we see every agency has great initiatives and great progress on getting there.
And I love the fact that when we say go to the cloud can be sort of anywhere, right? It can be sort of this, again, these hybrid sort of mashed up type environments, which is interesting and really enables a lot of these different types of technologies and capabilities. All right, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.